In this video, you will learn the no discard method of creating sourdough starter. Hi, I'm Ron, and thanks for clicking on this video. And meet JJ, one of my 27 grandchildren. There are basically two ways to create sourdough starter: the levain or leavening method and the no discard method. I'll briefly demonstrate the levain method and why I don't use it. Then I'll demonstrate the no discard method and why I much prefer it. Okay then, let's begin. With the levain method, sourdough starter is removed from the mother starter jar and placed in a different jar. Assuming the bread recipe calls for 100 grams of sourdough starter, and assuming a 1 to 2 to 2 feeding ratio, 20 grams of starter is placed in a new jar along with 40 grams of mixing flour and 40 grams of water for a total of 100 grams. Once the new levain has doubled in volume, the entire 100 grams is removed and mixed with water, flour, and salt to make sourdough. Whenever I see a demonstration like this, I always wonder, what happens next to the mother starter? If not fed, it will lose its strength and become weak. If fed, what will be done with all the extra starter that's created? One interesting element of the levain method is that the levain and the mother starter do not necessarily have to have the same composition. For example, assume the flour in the mother starter consists of 50% bread flour and 50% whole wheat flour. The flour added to the levain could be the same composition as the mother starter, or be something different, like 25% bread flour, 25% all-purpose flour, 25% rye flour, and 25% whole wheat flour, or any other mixture the baker wanted to use. Now, let me demonstrate the no discard method. One of the first things I do in the morning is feed my starter, which will be used to make sourdough this afternoon. This jar has 40 to 50 grams of starter, which was left over from the previous sourdough recipe. The jar sits on the counter overnight. I store my mixing flour in the fridge. The mixing flour I use to feed my starter consists of 1/3 all-purpose flour, 1/3 rye flour, and 1/3 whole wheat flour. My 2-loaf recipe calls for 200 grams of sourdough starter. In this picture, the black line represents the jar, the blue is the starter that sat on the kitchen counter overnight, the green is the 100 grams of water and 100 grams of mixing flour added this morning, bringing the total starter in the jar to 250 grams. The red represents the starter doubling in volume, and the pink vertical box represents 200 grams being removed to make sourdough today, and leaving behind 50 grams of starter remaining in the jar. It is important to realize that the 50 grams left behind in the jar consist of 20 grams of water and 20 grams of flour added today and 10 grams of starter that was in the jar from last night. Essentially, that 10 grams of starter has received a 1 to 2 to 2 feeding. It is vibrant and strong, and stronger today than it was yesterday. Here is a picture from the inside of the 50 grams of starter remaining in the jar. This is after it was fed 100 grams of water and 100 grams of mixing flour, and after 200 grams were removed to make sourdough today. This picture was taken about an hour after the 200 grams were removed, and as you can see from the rounded edges, it is continuing to rise, showing vibrant strength. A strong sourdough starter like this produces large oven spring every time. Isn't that bread beautiful? And I assure you, it tastes as good as it looks. Well, I hope I've convinced you to give the no discard method a try. Once you do, you'll never go back to the Levain method. Thanks again for watching this video, and make it a great day.